Hello, and welcome to our Google Sheets for Excel users course. My name is Mo Jones, and I will be your coach through this course today. Maybe you're an Excel user and you're looking for another cloud-based spreadsheet application. Well, we're going to explore some of the exciting features of Google Sheets. This is interactive, so be ready to pause the video and practice. And if you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe. If you're looking to earn certificates and watch videos without ads, sign up for Learn It Anytime, our dedicated online training subscription service. Check the link in the description for more information. If you have any questions you want answered by one of our instructors, please join our offsite community. The link is in the description as well. As always, if this course has exercise files, you'll find them in the video description below. Before we dive in, let's take a look at Google Sheets. As you notice, I just clicked on the app launcher, and we can see that Google Sheets is one of the apps that's a part of the Google Suite or the Google Workspace. So Google Sheets is the spreadsheet application of Google's cloud-based Office suite. And this is what we'll be taking a look at here today. So who should attend? Well, this is an accelerated class and is meant for experienced users of Excel. These are users who know how to create formulas and apply common functions in Excel. And more specifically, it's for users who want to learn how to do the same and more in Google Sheets. So as we go through our course today, you will recognize a lot of the same functions that you're used to in Excel. We're able to apply them here in Google Sheets as well. So here are our learning outcomes for today. By the time you finish with this course, you will have learned how to create conditional formatting in Google Sheets. You will learn how to limit what information users can add or edit into a sheet by using data validation. You'll be able to share a spreadsheet and collaborate in real time. You'll be able to make interactive sheets and forms to obtain information. You'll be able to get real-time financial data from the stock market. You'll be able to create macros to automate repetitive actions. And then along the way, you'll be learning how to create visuals like charts, Sparklines, and QR codes, and even a really nice dashboard. When we take a look at the interface, if we take a look at the actual worksheet, you take a look at the cell layout, the rows and columns, it's very identical to Excel. The menu bar is slightly different. We do not have that ribbon interface. We have the traditional drop-down menu. But one of the great things about Google Sheets is that you do get the autosave feature. Collaboration is very easy to do. Just click on that green share button and you'll be able to go ahead and collaborate in real time. The menu is also collapsible. So if we click on the small arrow, we can actually condense the menu, or we can just take a look at the commands there as well. But over and all, we're going to spend a lot of time playing around with the menu and, more importantly, working in the actual workspace as well. So go ahead and pause this video. Go ahead and open up your Google Sheets and we'll get started. Welcome back. Well, before we go ahead and jump in, please make sure that you open up the Google Sheets training document. And after you open that up, you should have the link. Once you open that up, what you want to do is go ahead and click on your file menu. And you want to go ahead and make a copy of this file. What this will allow you to do is edit that file, and that file will reside on your Google Drive. So go ahead and pause the video, click on the link, and make sure that you make a copy of this file. Now that you've made a copy of that file, let's go ahead and click on our very first worksheet tab, which is formatting and validation. So there's a few things that we want to do on this worksheet tab, but we'll start from the beginning here. So I do have some info documented here. So we have each salesperson. They were assigned 3 sales days for the past week. And now it's basically time for them to enter their daily sales. So here's our sales team over here. They each have an ID and they have a name as well. And so what they each need to do is enter their ID number, their name, the date of the sales, and the actual amount of sales that they earned for that particular day. Now, we want this data to be entered correctly. We don't want them to enter an incorrect ID number or have any errors. And so we're going to go ahead and kind of force them to just choose from a drop-down list. And that will allow us to connect this data because we know that it's accurate if you want to connect this data to another table or list as well. So what we're going to do first, I'll go ahead and set this up. We'll look up by ID number. So if I click on my data tab, here's my data validation. And this is what will allow me to have those drop downs. So step one, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the range that I want to apply the data validation to. And then I'll go ahead and click on the data tab. And I'll click on data validation. And so I have this dialog box now, and I have some options here that I can choose from. So here's my current range that I want to apply it to. And I have some different criteria here. So I can choose a list from a range, which I do want right here. I already have my list here, my ID numbers. I can choose this from a list of items. So notice as I change these, they actually, the dialog box updates for me. So if I want to type these IDs individually, I could do that. We can have a number between certain values. We can have a date between certain values as well. But I want to go ahead and use a list from a range. And I want to go ahead and take advantage of this box here where I can just go ahead and highlight all of my IDs here. Okay, so I'm pulling the data from cell range J3 to J8. If I click OK, it brings me back to my dialog box here. So the next thing I do want to make sure that I show the drop-down list in the cell. And I don't want anyone entering any invalid data. So I'm going to choose the reject input method here. So if they try to type something in that box, it will reject it. It will force them to choose one of these existing ID numbers. So I'll go ahead, and if I want to, I can show a validation help text. Okay, so I can say, click and enter a value from the range, or I can customize this. Okay, maybe I can say choose a valid ID. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click save. And so now each cell has a drop down. Now what I've done here is I've actually created a VLOOKUP formula and for the name so that when they enter the ID number, it's actually going to go ahead and pull the salesperson and automatically populate our name column here. So I'll go ahead and do the first one here. So I'll go ahead and do the first one. So as you can see, it drops in our first salesperson here. I'm Jordan. And we'll do another one here. So maybe we'll do a random one here, 98760. And so that's working fine here. So what we need to do now is go ahead and create data validation for the dates here as well. I want to specify that they can only enter between two dates here. This is important because this is for a specific week, and we want to make sure that all of these dates are for that particular sales week. So just as I did before, I'm going to go ahead and click on my data tab here. I'll go back to data validation, and this time I'll click on date here. And instead of is valid date, I'm going to go ahead and say between two dates here. And so I'm going to choose my week and set this up here. So if I pull up my calendar here, I'll go ahead and choose March 28th, 3/28. And then to April 1st. And I want to go ahead and reject any invalid input here as well. So I'll go ahead and this time I won't show a validation help text. I'll go ahead and click save. So let's give it a test here. For our first salesperson, we'll enter a date. So maybe we'll say, let's try to enter an invalid date here. So we'll put 4/2. Okay. And so the data you entered in cell G3 violates the data validation rule set on this cell. Okay. So from here, we just have to go ahead and enter the correct date here. So maybe that first day was actually March 28th. So I'll put 3/28. Okay, and so that works here as well. So go ahead and enter the sales amount here. Maybe I'll just put 8,500, and I'll give this the currency format. There we go. All right, so go ahead and complete this list here. All right, go ahead and enter 3 sales dates for each salesperson. Drop in the date and drop in the sales as well, and then pause the video and come right back. Welcome back. Well, I finally finished inputting all of my sales here for each of my sales people here. So now what I want to do, I want to head over to my next section here. Let's talk about conditional formatting. So conditional formatting can be found on the Format menu. And all the way to the bottom, I can go ahead and click on Conditional Formatting. What's really nice about conditional formatting in Google Sheets is we can actually choose our own colors and not just choose from a list of color options. So what we want to do here, we want to go ahead and run some conditional formatting. Maybe we can kind of show the average sales. Let's see who's below the average, and let's see who is below the average. Now we'll take a look at some other conditional formatting tools as well. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and highlight the range that I want to apply conditional formatting to. And what I'm going to do here is, instead of dropping in the average function to find the average, down here, if I take a look on my bar here, it's giving me some data, just like the status bar in Excel. And so right now it's showing me that the sum of all of those values is 139,250. I'm going to click on this down arrow here, and it will tell me that the average is 7736.11, the minimum here, and then I have the maximum as 11,500. Okay, I do have a minimum here. I need to go ahead and fix that. This should be 9,000. So I'll go ahead and change this to 9,000. So I'll go ahead and get this updated value. And okay, so my average is 8186.11. So maybe I'll just write that here, 8186.11. Okay, so that's my average. So now I can go ahead and create my conditional formatting. I'll highlight those values, and I'll click on my Format menu, and I'll click on Conditional Formatting. So at this point, I have 2 options. I can either use a single color right here, or I can use a color scale. So if I click on color scale, I do have my options here as well. But let's go ahead and use the single color. And so here's the range that's currently highlighted, H3 to H20. And I have some rules here that I can use. So if I click on this drop down, okay, so I can say it's greater than the average here. So the average was 8186.11. Maybe I'll just round that up to 8187. Okay, and as you can see, it's applying it in real time here. Maybe I want to change this color here. All right, so notice you can change the font to bold, italicize, underline. We could strike through. We can change the text color as well. I just want to go ahead and use the fill color. Maybe I'll change that to orange. And maybe that's a little too bright. Take something a little more subtle here. Maybe this nice blue. Okay, so as you can see, it went ahead and applied that. So now I can get a quick visual of who is hitting the average or who is hitting below the average here as well. All right, so very good. Now I'll go ahead and use a color scale. I can go ahead and click done. And if I close this here, okay, so remember we can apply different rules on top of each other. So if I go ahead and highlight this range again, I'll go back to Format, Conditional Formatting. I can see my rule right here. So if I want to go ahead and delete this rule so it doesn't conflict with another one, I can just go ahead and remove this rule here. I'll actually do that because at this point, I just want to take advantage of the color scale. And so I'll go ahead and remove the rule. I'm going to add another one here. This time I'll use the color scale. And what's really cool is with this color scale, I can actually specify the color that I want for my minimum value. If I want to establish a midpoint, I could. Or if I want to use the max here, I could as well. All right, so this is the default. If I click on here, I get some other color scales. So I have this yellow to white scale. And I have this really colorful one, this green to white to red. Obviously here, the red indicates the higher values, all right? And the greens there represent the smaller values here as well. So I can do that, or I can go ahead and choose my own colors here if I want to. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to make this too visually frightening for everyone here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click done. So go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and add the conditional formatting. Okay, we use that first one to drop in the actual number. So go ahead and apply a single color format, and then go ahead and apply a color scale as well. And as you can see, we get a really nice visual of how everyone is performing. So pause the video and come right back. Welcome back. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next worksheet tab here, which is called Name Ranges. And one of the really useful features is being able to apply a name to a range of data, making it a lot easier for us to refer to that actual range as opposed to highlighting that range all the time here. So here we have our peer company sales for February 2021. We have our salespeople here, and we are tracking their weekly sales totals. So for example, in week 1, M Carey had sales of 95.50, week 2, 92.30, week 3, 8,500, and then week 4, 89.65. And so we're tasked with filling out this financial form here. We have to go ahead and grab the total sales for all of these weeks, grab the average sales, the max sales, the min sales. And then we have to go ahead and grab the total sales for each of our salespeople here for the month of February. And so if we were to click on the insert menu here, for example, I'll go to M Carey's. We're going to go ahead and grab M Carey's weekly sales, or February sales rather. If I click on the insert menu and I go down to function, we can see that we have several functions here that we can drop in. Here are our basic functions such as the sum, average, count, max, and min. And so typically we would just drop in the sum function here. And then we just need to go ahead and specify the range that we want to sum. Okay. And the great thing, it gives us the answer before we click enter. So if something is wrong, we can go ahead and fix it. I'll go ahead and press enter. And at this point, it wants to autofill, which is a really, really cool feature here in Google Sheets as well. I don't want to autofill this right now because what I want to do is I want to go ahead and calculate the remaining sum of sales here using the name range. So I'll go ahead and cancel this autofill. So this is okay because this is a pretty small data set, right? It was pretty simple to highlight a very small data set here. But what if this were, an entire table or a really long, very, very long range here as well? It would not be ideal to have to highlight all the time. So we're going to use what's called named ranges. Named ranges can be found from the data tab. So if I click on the data tab, right here, I do have the option for named ranges here as well. So what I want to do, I want to go ahead and highlight the weekly sales here for eMusk. And I'm going to go ahead and click on my data tab. I'll click on named ranges. So it pops up right over here for me because I already have the range selected. So it's B5 to E5, which is correct. I can go ahead and give this a quick name. So I'll just call this eMusk. And then I'll go ahead and click done. Notice it does show me the other names that I have created here as well. As you can see, I have a table named countries on our SQL worksheet tab. I'll go ahead and click done here. And so now if I click on my name box, which is over here to the top left, so here's our name box. If I click on the drop down here, I should see eMusk here. So I'll go ahead and click away from eMusk. I'll click on an empty cell here and I'll click on eMusk from my drop down and notice how it's locking on to that range. If I even go to another worksheet and click on that drop down, it will bring me right back here as well. So let's see how we can use this in a formula. Okay. So this time I'll say equals sum, and I'll type the name in there. So eMusk. So as you can see, I have not finished typing all of it, but here it's showing me that I have a range that I can use, which is eMusk, and it's range B5 to E5. I'll press tab to accept that. It's already giving me my answer. I'll go ahead and close my parentheses and press enter. And just like that, I was able to use the name that I just created as opposed to highlighting the data set all the time. I'll give you the opportunity to go ahead and create individual names for J. Hudson, H. Styles, A. Rogers, and O. Winfrey. But right now, what I want to do, I want to take care of this form here. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this entire range here, this entire data set. Okay, just the numbers, just the weekly values. So from B4 down to E9. And I'm going to go ahead and add a range. And I'm going to call this Feb sales. Okay, Feb sales. Everything is okay. I'm going to go ahead and click done. So now when I go to total sales, I don't have to highlight all of this here. I can drop in my sum function. I can say equals sum, parentheses, Feb sales right there. Go ahead and press tab. And there we go. So we have 213,610 total sales for February. Now, if I want to drop in my average and use that name, I can as well. This time I'll use the insert, head over to function, and I'll drop in the average here. And I'll just drop in Feb sales again. 8,900 is the answer. Press enter. Okay, so at this point, what I want you to do, go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and create a name for J. Hudson's weekly sales here. One for H. Styles, one for A. Rogers, and one for O. Winfrey. Go ahead and complete the data entry here. And then go ahead and complete the data entry here by creating a name for the entire range here as well. So pause the video, take care of those things, and come right back. Welcome back. Well, now you can go ahead and check your work. If you take a look here, the average sales was 8,900 for all of our salespeople. The max sales was 11,200, as you can see here, indicated by H. Styles' week 3 totals. And the minimum sales, the lowest number was 5,975, as evidenced by eMusk's week 1 totals here as well. And just take a quick peek over here at the remaining values here for our February sales for each individual salesperson. So if that's all correct, let's go ahead and move on over to our protection and sharing worksheet tab here. And so what's going on here is a member of our team will be responsible for filling out this form on a weekly basis. And specifically what they're filling out here is our team, and our team members need to specify which one of the days of the week they will be working off-site. And they also need to go ahead and specify their weekly sales goals as applicable here as well. But the problem is our team leader has brought it to our attention that some of the data is being modified inappropriately. So for example, when a team member is assigned to fill out this data, we notice that some of the other data over here to the left is actually being tampered with. It could be just a keystroke or a wrong click of the mouse, or maybe they're using an app. But for whatever reason, we want to go ahead and protect the data over here. And so the whole idea is that we're going to go ahead and create a sandbox that they can only interact with the data that's in this cell range, which is L2 down to M18. If we click on our data tab, we will see where it says to protect the sheets and the ranges. Now, I do have the small picture here of what the dialog box looks like, and I have the steps recorded here as well. So we're going to go ahead and protect the sheet. So I'll go ahead and click on my data tab. I'll click on protect sheets and ranges. And over here, I'm going to click on where it says add a sheet or a range. Now notice I can protect an individual range if I want to, but in this case, I want to protect the entire sheet. So now that I'm protecting the sheet, I do have the option here to just say I just want to protect certain cells. So I'll go ahead and click on that. Now we could choose what sheet we want to protect. Notice we are currently on the protection and sharing worksheet tab here. So this is the one that we want to protect. All right. So we want to protect everything except for this range here. So if I highlight this range, this is what I want. So I'll go ahead and click on select data range. Then I'll go ahead and highlight my sandbox here. So except certain cells, so except for L2 to M18. So again, I can go ahead and add another range if I want to, but that's okay. This is all I want for now. So I'll go ahead and click OK. At this point, I can go ahead and enter a description. And this is a good thing to do because if I have several protections on here, I want to be able to easily identify which one I either want to edit or go ahead and remove. I'll go ahead and click on Set Permissions. And from here, I can choose this option just to kind of show a warning when editing a particular range, or I can go ahead and restrict who can edit this range. So I've chosen the option that only I can actually edit this range. If I choose custom here, I can actually specify anyone that I'm sharing this file with. I can specify their access here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click done here. All right, so my changes are saved. I'm going to go ahead and close this here. So if I come over here, I do have access, right? So I can actually type in here. I'm going to go ahead and open up my second user here. And let's see if my second user can actually interact with this file. So here's my second user. Here's my actual team member that needs to fill out this form. And so let's see, we'll go ahead and fill out for Howard Smith. Weekly sales goal is 5,000. Okay, so that works. We can enter the data here. And let's go ahead and fill out for Joe here. So Joe wants Wednesday. And Joe's goal is 5,500. Okay. So now let's see if I can interact with, maybe I accidentally clicked over here and I'm changing this name here to Dave. And so I get this error. It says you're trying to edit a protected cell or object. Please contact the spreadsheet owner to remove protection if you need to edit. So it's working as planned. So again, we accomplished the goal here. Here's our sandbox. This is the only area that our user can actually interact with. All of our data on the left is kept intact. And so we no longer have to worry about the integrity of our data. So mission accomplished. Go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and set up your protected ranges there. If you do have the capability to use another account, you can go ahead and share the file. Just clicking on share that file with your another account, maybe a friend, and see if they can actually edit that range here as well. So pause the video, take care of those things, and come right back. Welcome back. Okay, well, we have a really nice report here. We have our Pear Creamery sales for fiscal year 2021. And here we have a few sales people here, Bishop, Pullen, and Watson. And they're selling different treats such as ice cream, frozen yogurt, tasty treats, popsicles across different regions such as North, Central, and West here as well. And so we're tracking their sales in each of those regions for the particular type of treat that they are selling. And we're tracking the units here as well. And so very nice report. If we just kind of scroll down, we can see that it goes down to row 85. And so our team uses this report often. We're always kind of, creating charts and pivot tables from this data here. We always want a really nice update. And so one of the things that that we do when we're in here, maybe we want to go ahead and use some filters so that we can, maybe filter by region or filter by salesperson or filter by type as well. So that works well for us. But the thing is, when we are creating filters, different filter views here on this data, it's actually updating on everyone's view. So if another person is in here, if somebody else from my team is actually in this Google Sheet here at the same time that I am, and I'm creating different filters, maybe I'm filtering by region, it's also going to filter on my team members' view as well. So in other words, any filters that I create here, it's universal. It's going to affect everyone that's interacting with this sheet. And so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a personal filter view. Now, to kind of demonstrate what I'm referring to here on our menu, we can go ahead and actually create a filter. Okay, or I can create a filter view. So if I highlight all of my headers here and I click on a filter, so I can go ahead now I have my filters. So if I want to filter by region, I can go ahead and do that. So if I click on region, maybe I just want to see the West there. So if I click OK, right? So now it's only showing me my Western region, but this is also going to show up on everyone's view. And so if another team member go ahead, maybe they clear this filter, right? And maybe they just clear it like so. It can kind of be very, very problematic here as well. All right. So this changes for everyone. And so what we want to do, let's go ahead and click on the data view here. And I can remove these filters if I want to. Or what I want to do is go ahead and create a new filter view. So first I want to go ahead and remove these filters here. So I'll unclick here so that everyone is happy. Okay. And then from here, I'll click on my data and I'll go ahead and use a filter view. So currently I don't have any, so I'll create a new filter view. Okay. And so now what this does, this is my own filter view workspace. So notice a few things has happened here. We kind of see this, these black borders around here. So all of our columns now are colored this black or white, or depending on the theme that you chose. And also down here, our rows are black as well. And so right now we're actually in a filter view. And so if I were to go ahead and, maybe sort by a salesperson, this is only affecting my view. So it's kind of giving us a little virtual space where we can interact with this data without interfering with our other colleagues or collaborators in this sense, without interfering with their view. Now we can create multiple filter views if we want to. Okay, and we can go ahead and close the view by clicking on the X here, and this will actually bring us back to our regular view. If I click on the options here, right, I can go ahead and actually give this a name here. So if I click on rename, now I can go ahead and call this my view 1, maybe my view 1 here. And I can just go ahead and press enter. So now I can go ahead and I can close this out. Okay. And so notice this brings me right back. So notice it was filtered by salesperson in my virtual filter view, but now I'm back on the original data set. And as you can see, it's not filtered. And so now if I want to go back, maybe go back to that view, now that I've created that filter view, I can go ahead and see it right here. So it's my view 1. That'll bring me right back to that view that I had established before. From here, I can go ahead and create a new filter view if I want to. I can delete the all filter views. I'll go ahead and click on my view 1. Okay, that brings me right back to that view where I have Bishop sorted, or sorted by salesperson here as well. Okay, this is actually pretty useful because what we'll see is when we import data, sometimes we're not able to create filters on that data because it's static. So what we can do is create a filter view and we can go ahead and interact with the data in our virtual space. So I'll go ahead and click on close here. So go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and create a view or two. Go ahead and rename them as well and come right back. Welcome back. Well, hopefully you had some fun with those filter views. Now let's go ahead and talk about managing different versions of our document. Why would we want to do this? Well, this is helpful when something breaks and you want to fall back to a known working version. We can just simply restore an auto-saved version of our Google Sheet. And so in this example, we notice that the autosave is actually enabled here. So I can see my document was last saved or last edit was 3 minutes ago. I can actually click here as well to open the version history. But what I want to do is I'll go ahead and click on the file menu. Okay. And then we'll go to version history here. And I have two options. I can actually establish this current version. Maybe I want to use this as a, maybe a standard. I'm pretty happy with this version. I can go ahead and give this version a name. And so I can always fall back to this version if something happens. But what I want to do, I want to go ahead and see the version history. Notice you can press Control-Alt-Shift+H to view the version history as well. So here's our version history. Okay. And the first thing that we notice is we can go back here just by clicking on the back arrow. Goes back to our current version. Over here on the right, we have our dialog box for our version history, so we can view all versions. And we actually have the versions from today. Okay, so if I click here on my drop down for all versions, I can say named versions. Don't have any, I did not name any here. So if I go back to all versions here, so Google Sheets was actually just creating different versions for me. So if I go back here, 9:30 a.m. This morning, I had a version that was created. Maybe I made some significant changes there. And so if I click on the more actions here, so notice it kind of opens up that version for me to kind of show me if I changed anything. So at this point, it gives me that version so I can get a really nice look to see what it looked like before I made my changes. So I have a few options. I can restore this version. So this will now become my current version. I can go ahead and name this version if I want to, or I can make a copy of this actual version. So this gives you a lot of different options here. And this is very, very useful when you're, development mode for a particular workbook that you're working on. So I can name the version, restore the version, and I can also take a look at the version here. So if I click here, okay, so here's another entry, and this is my current version. So notice if you're sharing the file with anyone else, if anyone else interacted with that version, you'll see them show up here as well. Okay, so I'll click back on here, and I'm just going to go ahead and click back on the bottom here, right? We do have the option to show changes. I did not make any significant changes here, so we're pretty good to go. Let me go ahead and click on, maybe I'll click here this morning. And I'll go ahead and click on maybe my formatting and validation here. Okay, so as you can see, this is before we actually completed this form here as well. So if I want to go back to a blank slate, I certainly can do that here as well. I'll go back to my current version. I'm going to go back to my worksheet here. All right, so there we go. So really nice way, keeping a record for you, and you're able to fall back and recover from sometimes a disaster, data loss, or maybe someone that was collaborating on your document really made things very, very difficult for you. So go ahead, pause the video, take a look at the different version histories. You can also access it from here as well. If you click on the save notification area as well. Welcome back. Well, I've moved on over to my charts and Sparkline worksheet tab here. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at our data here. So we have our March product sales. We have a few salespeople here, 4 to be exact. And we just have a really basic data set here. We're tracking their weekly sales, 4 weeks here. So for example, Yancey's week 1, 7,500, week 2, 8,900, week 3, 9,000, week 4, 11,500. So we want to go ahead and do two things. We want to, one, insert a chart that we can just kind of populate over here. And what's really nice about the Google Sheets chart feature is Google Sheets is going to use its built-in AI tool, and it's going to really give us a really nice recommended chart based on the data that we have selected here as well. Once we have that chart up and running, we'll go ahead and take a look at the customizations that we can make, and we'll get it to look really the way that we want it to. And then we'll come back and run a little trend analysis here for each person's performance week over week as well. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and click on my data set here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on my insert menu. And I want to go ahead and insert a chart. And just like that, I did not have to select my entire data range. Everything here in the region was selected automatically by the AI. And this is the recommended chart that it gave me here. So if I just kind of move this chart around, maybe I'll put it over here. And so really nice, colorful chart here. And if I just go ahead and I can interact with the different elements here as well. Okay, notice that these are grouped. So here's week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. So we have our legend here, and we have our sales rep here on the bottom here as well. If we'll notice, we have a really big menu over here. Charts traditionally have lots of layers here that we can interact with. And so we'll take a look at some of these options here to see what we can edit. So one of the first things we'll do, we do notice we have two menus here. So we have this setup, which is kind of our basic features here for our chart. And then we actually have this customize option here as well. So we'll take a look at the setup first. So the first thing we can do is we can go ahead and change the chart type. Okay, so right now we have this column chart. If we just kind of scroll through, we have different types of charts here, even a map, but they were any kind of geolocations listed there as well. We have this tree map chart, which is becoming very, very popular. So if I convert this to a tree map here, let's see. Okay, column week 1 must be text. Okay, so that's not going to work for me. So I'll change this here. Maybe I'll make this a pie chart. Okay, so we have our pie chart. We have, let's see. We have this timeline, not going to apply here. And that's the main thing with charts when you're working with them. They're different layers here. You have to kind of determine what you're working with here. So maybe I'll get this stack bar chart. So this is a pretty good option here. So for this one, we actually have the clusters of the salespeople here. And then we have their weekly totals here as well. I'm going to go back to my original chart here. So here we have different sections. So here are our suggested charts in Excel. This would be our recommended chart. So I'll go back and click on my column chart here. And so I can interact with a different type of stacking. Okay, so if I choose standard, right, it's all collapsed into one column here. If I choose 100%, right, gives me a percentage indicator here. And I'm going to go back to, I don't want the stacking here as well. So here's my data range. If I wanted to update my data range, I can simply just expand my range here. I can click on my select data range icon, and I can go ahead and apply this to another range if I want to. And I can go ahead and change the axis if I want to. I can use the aggregate feature if I want to do that. I can drop in the sum here as well. One of the things I like to do sometimes is switch the rows and the columns. Okay, so now it gives me clusters of weeks. So here's week 1, and each cluster has the totals for each salesperson here as well. So I like to use these. I'll go ahead and switch the row and column here. I'll go to the customize here. And these are kind of the cosmetic features that you'll find when you interact with an Excel chart. So notice we do have several areas here. So here are the chart styles. So from here, we can change the background color. We can establish the font if we want to. The font is usually based on the theme that you select, which is pretty cool. I can specify the border. Let's see if I can make this a 3D chart. Yep, there we go. So now it's 3D. All right. So a lot of different options here for the chart style. Okay, so here if I want to give this a title, okay, maybe I'll just call this weekly sales. All right, instead of that week 1, 2, 3, 4 there as well. And if I want to go ahead and change the font, I can. If I want to change the size, I can as well. Let's make it 20 there. All right, so I can go ahead and make some changes here if I want to. In terms of the series, okay, a lot of different options in here that I can use. Okay, so I can specify the line color. Notice a lot of these are automatic because these were recommended, and so I can change a lot of the elements here. Okay, if I want to put data labels, I can. Okay, so the data labels will place the numerical values on top of these bars. I would just need to kind of make sure I make this chart big enough that I can actually read it correctly here. So I'll go ahead and turn off my data labels here. And notice when you enable some of these features, you have more options, just like you would in Excel. You have more options in terms of how to format them here as well. I'll leave that turned off. I'll go ahead and collapse my series here if I want to. Here's my legend. Okay, so the legend right now is positioned automatically. I can move that to the bottom if I want to. So here's my legend, move to the bottom. And again, I can go ahead and interact with the font there as well. So I have my horizontal axis and my vertical axis here as well. I have some different labels types that I can use if I want to. Okay, so maybe I want to make these 30%, 30-degree angle rather. I can do that. I'll choose 90 degrees. Doesn't look too good. I'll put it back to 30. I think that looks okay. All right. And then same options for the vertical axis here. So I can use the scale factor if I want to. All right. So right now it's default again. This is the suggested. So a lot of these here are default, but we can go ahead and change these values if you want to in terms of 100s, 1000s, or millions as well. We'll go ahead and take a look at the grid lines and ticks. Okay. And so all these options are in here for you to interact with this chart. But the great thing is Google will give you the recommended or the suggested chart, and you're pretty much good to go from there. If I go back to my chart here and I click on this menu, from here I can edit the chart, which would pretty much bring up this menu here. I can delete the chart. I can download this as a PDF or as a picture if I want to, or as a SVG file. I can publish the chart. I can copy the chart. If I want to move it to its own sheet, I can do so. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that. All right, so that looks very, very nice. This is really ready for presenting. It's really nice and big. We get the tooltips here as we kind of move over each of these. And so very nice option here. We still have the option here to edit the chart if we want to, and download the chart as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back here. Okay, so I'll go back to I'll click on this menu here. I'll go back to charts and Sparklines. And so what I want to do right now, I want to go ahead and insert a Sparkline for a quick trend analysis. So I'm going to type equal Sparkline, and I'll press tab to accept that. And we do get the syntax here is kind of spelled out for us by Google Sheets. Kind of gives us an example here that we can drop in. So the first part of this is I want to go ahead and drop in my data set. So I want to analyze TNC's weekly sales. I'll go ahead and press the comma, and it's going to go ahead and give me the next option here. So if I want to, I can go ahead and specify the chart type if I want to, okay, and so forth and so on. But we can get some more help by just kind of scrolling down here, and we'll see the different options here. But what I want to do, I'm pretty okay. I just want a basic Sparkline. I'm going to go ahead and press enter. And there you go. So it shows me a little trend here. So as we can see, there's a kind of upward tick, kind of trending upwards here as well. If I want to go ahead and resize this cell, make it a little bigger so I can get a better visual, I can resize it. Okay, so now I can get a true depiction of how T-Yancey is doing. Okay, I'll try to autofill down here, but let's see, B5 to E5. Okay, B6 to E6. Okay, so this is actually working pretty fine. I just need to go ahead and expand these here as well. So pretty good. Everyone seems to be trending up, which is very, very good. And we'll take a look and see how we can use these later on to create our dashboard. So go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and insert your chart from your data, and then go ahead and insert your Sparkline just by typing in the Sparkline function. Welcome back. Well, hopefully you had fun with your chart there. You're able to create some Sparklines and get some ideas for the future as well. Let's go ahead and talk about one of the really cool features of Google Sheets, and that's the use of checkboxes. So let's make sure that you're on your Checkboxes worksheet tab here. And we'll get a really nice example of how checkboxes can be used to make you more efficient in Google Sheets. So here we have a project tracker here. And we have a project name. We have several projects here. And we want to provide a status update for each of these projects. To be more specific, this is our team leader's project tracker. And as you can see, we have a few projects here, such as 59th Street inventory, Midtown office move, promotion announcements, submit progress report, finalize professional development for the fiscal year 22, and finalize the applicant list for the COO position. So as you can see, these are some pretty high profile projects here. And this is what our team leader wants. Our team leader wants to include some checkboxes for completed projects. And we'll take it a step further. If the checkbox is selected, it's going to actually cross out these individual projects here as well. So we'll just put a strike through the actual text for the entire line. And so we'll need to do two things in order to do this. We'll need to first insert the checkboxes, and then we can go ahead and use conditional formatting to evaluate to see if the checkbox is checked or not. So if it's checked, we're going to strike through the entire text. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all the projects here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on my Insert tab. And right here towards the bottom, I want to go ahead and insert checkboxes. And just like that, I have some checkboxes here. Gave a sneak preview there. Okay. So right now the checkboxes are empty. Now, one important thing to know with these checkboxes, they actually have a default value or a behavior. So for example, they have this Boolean feature. So they kind of default to either true or false. So guess what? If I check off one of those checkboxes, the value in that cell is actually going to be true. If it's unchecked, then it's actually going to be false. So how can we use that to our advantage? Okay, let's take it step by step here. We just inserted some checkboxes. Well, let's go ahead and see what value is actually inside of that checkbox. So if I click in this cell, as you can see, it says false. Okay. Notice I did not check it off, but I don't really want to interact with that cell. I'll say equals and give me the value that is inside of that cell. And so as you can see, it defaults to false. Now, if I change this, if I click here, okay, so now it's true. And it's the same for all of these checkboxes here. So now that I know that, right, if it's checked off, the value in the cell is true, or if it's unchecked, the value is false, I can use that to apply some conditional formatting here. Now, we did talk about conditional formatting earlier. That was basic conditional formatting. What I have here is a custom conditional formatting. So I'm actually going to go over here and highlight this range here for the projects. I'm going to click on my Format tab and take a look at the conditional formatting. So here's my conditional formatting that's specified for rows 3 to 8. So if I click here, we'll take a look at it. So I'm using a single color, okay? And it's applying to range A3 to B8, which is what I currently have selected here. So what I did, I chose the option for custom formula. And just like in Excel, you can use conditional formatting to highlight an entire row of data as opposed to just one column by entering a conditional statement and locking on to the actual columns. If you take a look at my formula here, okay, so I'm checking the value in B3. So here's B3 right here. So I'm checking that value. And if that value is true, then I'm going to go ahead and perform these actions. I'm going to go ahead and strike through the text in that row as well. Okay, so this is kind of how it works here. And so as we move to the next one here, as we move to the next line, okay, so if B4 is true, we're going to go ahead and strike through all of the text that's in A4, right? So I already kind of have this set up here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the box. Okay. So our team leader has finished this project. He clicks on the check mark and it highlights the cells with this color here. And it strikes through it, indicating that the project is complete. Okay. Maybe he's still working on the Midtown office move, but the progress report is done. Go ahead and click on there. And it strikes out the entire row as well. So really nice, really cool example of using a checkbox. And we can take advantage of the fact that we know the value in the checkbox as well. One thing that we can do, if we want to change the value in the checkbox, right? Maybe we want to be able to write some more elaborate statements. We can actually use data validation to actually change the value that is in the checkbox. For example, here, I did insert some checkboxes here, but I did combine it with conditional formatting. So if I highlight these and I click on data validation, data validation, not conditional formatting. One of the options for data validation, earlier we used a list from a range, but you can actually choose a checkbox. So you can use data validation to drop in some checkboxes here. And now instead of that default behavior where it's either true or false, I can specify, I can say, hey, if this box is checked, I want it to be a 5. Or if it's unchecked, I want it to be a 2. And so if I save that, so now as you can see, if I just check the value here, so if I just say equals, show me the value in G2. Okay, so if it's checked, it's 5. If it's unchecked, it's going to be 2. And so now we can evaluate these different checkboxes based on different values that we provide here as well. Okay, so very good. So go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and insert your checkboxes. And if you want to, go ahead and write the conditional formatting as such so that you can strike through or perform another action here on the entire row and come right back. Welcome back. Well, hopefully you had some fun with those checkboxes and combining it with conditional formatting. Well, let's go ahead and talk about using forms. Google Sheets has really good forms that we can create. Now, why would we want to create a form? Well, forms are usually created for collecting data. And so we can go ahead and use this. What we actually want to do is create a form. And I have a link right here for this kind of sample form that we're going to go ahead and build. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new tab. And I'll use my app launcher here. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll down until I see forms at the very end here. So I'll go ahead and open up a new form. And so at this point, we can start from a blank form. We can also use an existing template here. And so here's kind of the template here that we saw earlier. I'm going to go ahead and start a new form. It's good to use a template because it's already kind of built. And so you can just go in and customize it if you want to. But I'll go ahead and create a new blank form here. So at this point, I want to go ahead and there's a lot of features here, but we'll go ahead and focus on this immediate area for now. Let's go ahead and give this a title. So we'll call this holiday party. And if I click up here on the title, it will actually assume that I want to use this as my title. That's perfectly fine. I'll go ahead and use that. All right. So I can go ahead and add a form description. It's optional. I don't have to, but I'll go ahead and do that here. And to make things easier, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste the text from the other form there. So I'll just say, hope you enjoy our party. So at this point, we do have the option here for our first question. And I'm going to go ahead and enter that question here. So the first one was, what is your name? So I'll go ahead and type that in right here. And notice when I click on this question box, it opens up all these options here for me. So I'll start with a question first. What is your name? And the AI is looking, and depending on the type of question that you ask, it will kind of move things around for you. Notice how it changed from multiple choice to short answer because we're asking for a name. So that's perfectly fine. So at this point, what I can do is I can change this if I want to. Okay. So, this is appropriate because it's a short answer. If I was asking a question that required, a lot of words or sentences, I would choose a paragraph to give more space. Okay, so it'll be long answer text. I have multiple choice, in which case I would have to provide the options here. But I'll keep it simple. I'll stick with my short answer. At this point, if I want to make this a requirement, I can go ahead and do so. So I'll make this a requirement. Okay, they cannot submit the form until they actually provide their name. So at this point, I want to go ahead and add another question. So over here to my right, I have this plus sign, which indicates that I can add a question if I want to. I can import questions if I want to. Okay, I can add a title and description if I want to here as well. I can add an image. I can add a video, or I can go ahead and add another section. Right now, I just want to go ahead and add a question here. So here's my second question, and the question that was asked in the form was attending Actually, this was, sorry, will you be at the party? So will you be at the party here? It's the second part here. And notice I can add these here. So I can say yes, no, maybe, right? So I can add that, yes or no. But in this case, we're just concerned if the person will be at the party or if they will not be. So yes or no is okay. I'm going to go ahead and make this a requirement here as well. All right. So now we want to kind of make this form work properly. So if someone says they will be at the party, we want them to go to the next section where we can ask them some more questions, such as, how many people are they bringing with them? And are they bringing any kind of food item or drink item to the party? However, if they're not coming to the party, then we just want them to go to the next section where they will just submit the form. Because if they're not coming, we don't want to ask them any other questions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and create a section here. So I'll go ahead and add a section. Okay. And so this section here will be conditional. So based on the answer that they provide, they will come to this section. So maybe for this section, I'll give this a title here. I'll say, let's see, details. All right. So I'll call this details, and I'm going to go ahead and add a question. Okay. And the question I want to ask is, let's see, how many are coming? Okay. So I'll say how many are coming. And maybe I'll leave this as a short answer so that they can answer this. Okay. So what I want to do here is, if you notice, we take a look, after section 1, continue to the next section. So we can do that. But remember, I told you I want this to be conditional. So if the person says yes, they're going to go to section 2. If they say no, we just want them to exit the form. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this menu here, this more options. And I'm going to say go to section based on answer. All right. And so if they say yes, then we're going to continue to the next section. If they say no, then we just want them to exit the form. So we'll say submit the form, or we can just create a small section that says, sorry that you cannot make it, and then they can submit the form. But to keep it simple, we'll just submit the form here. All right. Okay, so at this point, let's see, we can just do a quick test. Let's go ahead and preview this. Let's put in the fictitious name here. And if I say no, will not be at the party, then it brings them to submit. Okay. So that works. If I go back, if I say yes, it should bring us to the next section that asks us some more questions. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And now we can continue setting up the rest of the form. Okay. So unless we need to insert another section, we won't do so. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and add another question here. Okay. So how many are coming? So the next question is bringing anything. So I'll put this over here. Then we'll have our options here. I'm going to use a checkbox because maybe they're bringing more than one thing. So I'll use checkboxes that allows them to enter more than one option. And let's see, right here we have, I'm just going to copy this over here. Okay. And the great thing is you can just copy it. So if you have items in a notepad or in a Word document, you can just copy those and it will actually expand it for you automatically here. All right. So as you can see, it works perfectly fine. So mains, salads, desserts, drinks, sides, and appetizers. And if I want to add other, I can add other here. Just kind of gives them another option. Okay, so far so good. So the next one here is, well, maybe I should say nothing. Or let's see, maybe I'll add another option here for, I'll say no. I'm not bringing anything as well. I'm going to add another question here. And my next question is allergies. All right, so do you have any allergies or dietary restrictions? So we'll put that here. Okay. And we'll use long text here, or paragraph. Maybe they have an extensive list of allergies here or dietary restrictions. We'll provide some more space so they can enter the data here as well. All right. And then we'll ask one more question here. Now, this last question on the form, they were asking for the email address. Okay, so we can say, what is your email? Let's see if the form will update for us based on the question. And it does. So for the email address, it's providing a short answer space here as well. Okay, so we're pretty much good to go. Our form is complete and very, very basic here. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and let's go ahead and set this up. We'll click on responses. And what you'll notice is that we have the option here to connect it to an actual spreadsheet. If we don't want to accept responses right now, we can turn it off. So maybe we're still building the form. Maybe you just kind of want to stop collecting responses right now. I'll go ahead and click on here. But what I want to do is I want to go ahead and create a spreadsheet. If I click on this option here, okay, I have some other options here. So I can get email notifications for new responses. Okay, I can select a destination for the response. And once I have my responses here, I have 0 right now, I can download it into an Excel file. But what I want to do is I want to go ahead and create a spreadsheet, right, that will collect all of these responses for me. So it gives a default name, holiday party, and these are the responses. If I want to link it to an existing spreadsheet, I can do so. And this is very, very good. If you want to link it to an Excel, a current spreadsheet to just kind of add data to that spreadsheet, this is a good way to do this as well. For example, if you are tracking inventory, you created an inventory form, this will update your inventory for you just by creating the form here. So I'll go ahead and click on create. Okay. And so here it is. It's opening up my Google Sheet here. Okay. Now the great thing about this is it comes with a timestamp. So as you'll see, when I start entering some responses here, I'll get a timestamp, and here are all the fields in that form. So they'll come in row by row here. So very nice. So I'll go back to my form here. I'll go ahead and click on the settings, and here are just some of the settings that we can use. We can make this a quiz if we want to. If we turn this into a quiz, we have to assign point values to each of the questions, and then we have to provide answers as well. We can manage how responses are collected and protected. So if I click on this drop down, okay, so here I can choose the option to collect email addresses. So instead of having that last question, what is your email, right? I can actually just say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and collect email addresses as well. So maybe I'll turn that on. And I have the option here. I can send a response to the person, right, after they finish. I'll leave that off. Do we want to allow people to change their answers after they submit it? Okay, so that's something we have to think about. We can turn this on or off. Just kind of provides more managing on your part. If we want to limit to one response, we can also do that. Okay, but again, this is kind of just based on the different conditions here as well. So this does require a sign-in for you to limit it to one response. And then we have the presentation here. Okay, so these are the things that our people who are filling out the form can see. They can see the progress bar. We can shuffle the questions for them. This is useful if we're making this into a quiz. We can shuffle the questions, and so that they cannot sneak answers to one another there as well. We can show a link to submit another response unless we're restricting it to one response only. So if I limit to one response, this will become grayed out. Okay, just like that. So again, it's conditional. And sometimes maybe we want to turn on autosave. I've had people that their form crashed in the middle and they had to do it all over again. So maybe you want to just kind of leave this turned on here. The other options here, these are more cosmetic. So if you want to customize the theme, we can choose the theme colors. Maybe we'll go for a more bluish tone here. We can set the background color. We can establish the font style. So maybe we'll make this formal. Okay. And let's see, we can choose a header. There's some built-in headers in here that we can use. And let's see if I can find those balloons that I saw in the other form. Okay, so maybe let's see, party. Nope, it's not there. That's okay. Maybe I'll just give it this birthday. Oh, here it is. Found it. So I'll go ahead and insert that. Okay. And so now we have a header. So I'll go ahead and close this out. And at this point, I can just go ahead and send it out. So if I click on send, I can get a link. All right. So if I want to provide a link here, I can grab a link, I can shorten the URL if I want to, copy this, and now I can share it with someone else. If I go back to the message here, I can add some collaborators if I want to. So maybe someone else can help me design the form or add anything else as well. Do have the option to include the form in the email as well. So the person can just fill out the form right in their email as well. I'm not really a big fan of this feature. I like for them to open the direct link and actually edit the form here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. And we're pretty much done with our form. I'm going to go back to my questions here. As you can see, here is our image here in the header. The font has updated as well. And we're pretty much good to go. So I'll go ahead and click on preview. And I'm going to go ahead and add some responses in here so that we can take a look at our Excel or our Google Sheets file. So I was able to go ahead and add a few responses here. And as you can see, here are our responses. So we have Joe G is coming to the party. 3 are coming with Joe. Joe's bringing salad, does not have any allergies, and here's Joe's email. And then we have Kim. Kim is coming, bringing mains, sides, appetizers. Kim has a peanut allergy. And then Sarah filled out the form, but Sarah will not be coming to the party as well. And so Sarah did not have to answer any of these questions. And then finally we have Chris. Chris says yes. Chris is bringing 4 people. And his party is bringing mains, salads, and dessert. Does not have any allergies here as well. And so as you can see, once this list builds, we can introduce some filters here. And we can kind of filter through maybe who has an allergy, who does not, and who's coming and who's not here as well. Let's see if I go back to my form here. Okay, so now I can take a look at the responses. If I click on the responses here, right? So I have 4 responses. I can get the summary of all the responses. So here are the 4 people who replied. And here I get some pie charts here. So I have 3 attending, 1 not attending. And so I get some kind of, some graphics here that I can use. Quick snapshot here as well. I can copy this chart and paste it elsewhere if I want to. So very good. If I want to take a look at the individual, so here are some of the questions here. Okay. If I want to take a look at individual questions, I can see how they were answered. If I want to view individual responses, here's Joe's responses. So I can take a look at these. Maybe I have a question for Joe. I can just contact Joe and ask if anything else is needed. I can scroll to the next person. Here are Kim's responses. So pretty cool, pretty nice option here. Really good option for collecting data. But as you can see, this is a very simple form. We just basically added a section, 1 conditional, and everything else was pretty simple here as well. So go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and create this basic form. Connect it to your Google Sheet. Use the preview option to drop in a few responses and take a look at the responses in your Google Sheet and come right back. Welcome back. Well, hopefully you had some fun creating a form. Now let's go ahead and move on to our next worksheet tab, which is called Import HTML. And we're going to use the Import HTML function so that we can import data from websites. There are a lot of websites out there that have a lot of useful tables. Maybe you want to examine a historical table, a geographical table, or maybe even a financial table. And I'll go ahead and take a look here. So I have a list of Super Bowl champions here on a public page. So if I scroll down, as we can see, we have some pretty nice tables here. So here's our first table, kind of have the NFL, the AFL, National Football Conference as well. We have the Super Bowl champions here. And here's a really nice table, lots of information that we can just kind of drop it into our Google Sheet there as well. So maybe I want to have this table here in real time. Now, obviously, this most likely gets updated once a year because there's only one winner every year. But I can kind of keep this as a running list here. So as long as this data updates here on this web page, it will update on my actual Google Sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. So here's another table. Okay, so these are kind of the winners and losers all time for Super Bowls. So I have that as well. Okay, so maybe I'll grab a few of those tables. So I'm going to stop scrolling here. I'll go back, make sure I copy this link. And I'm going to head back over to my Google Sheet. And what I'll do is maybe I want to place that data right here. And so I do have the picture here of the import HTML function. What's necessary for you to insert is the URL, the type of query, the index, and the locale. Now, some of these are optional. Not all of these are mandatory. So what I'm going to do, I'll go ahead and start typing equals import. And as you can see, you can import XML, data, feed, HTML. We want HTML. And so it's asking me for the URL. And we have a nice little guide here, a little menu as a guide. Oops, sorry, if I click down here rather, have a little guide. So we can use this first example here of how to fill this out. So as you can see, the web address needs to be included in quotes. So I'll head up to my menu bar here. And I'll add my quotes. I'll paste that link. I'll close the quotes. I'm going to go ahead and type a comma so I can enter my next argument here. So my next argument basically is, well, what type of data am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for a table. So I'm going to write the word table in quotes here. And I'm going to go for my third argument, which is what I need. I don't need the last one, the locale. I do need to specify the table number that is currently on the page. Okay. And so maybe I'm not sure what number it is. It's okay. I can just go ahead and type number 1. Again, that last part is not necessary. It's just going to assume the current locale. So I'll go ahead and press enter. And let's see what table it pulls back. So this is the table. So if you go back to the website here, I'm sorry while I scroll up. So it's referring to this table. So this is the first table. So if I wanted to enter this table, I would need to type the number 2. This is table 2. And this is table 3, and then table 4. So it's okay. We can always just change the number. This is not the table that I wanted. I can just go ahead and change a number here. We'll change it to number 2. And maybe we'll take a look at all 4 tables. So I'll just change that 1 to a 2, press enter. It's going to connect to the website, find that table, and drop in the data right in here. Okay, so here are all of the Super Bowl winners. Okay, since Super Bowl 1. All right. There you go. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up here. So now what I can do is maybe I just want to kind of run some filtering on this data set here. We just have to be mindful. A lot of this requires some cleaning up so that Google Sheets can just interpret the data correctly here. So for example, let me try and go ahead and actually sort by attendance. Let's see which one had the largest attendance here. So if I highlight all of my headers, I'll go ahead and introduce a filter here. And let's see if I do a sort, if I sort largest to smallest. So as you can see, it's not really working here, right? And the reason it's not working is because the table is resetting. Every time I try to run a filter, it actually resets here. So if I try to do this again, maybe I'll sort A to Z. Notice how it quickly sorts and then it goes back. And so what I have to do, if I want to be able to run some filtering on this table that I imported, I have to create a filter view. So if I go here and click on create new filter view, okay, so now it opens within that virtual filter here that I have. And now let me go ahead and try and sort. Okay, so now as you can see, I can sort, but again, I just need to kind of clean up this table here a little bit because we have some empty data here. But as you can see, I can go ahead and sort just like that. Okay. So if you ever import data a website or import HTML rather, you need to create a filter view so that you can go ahead and run some filters on that data set. I'm going to close my filter view here. And I want to go back and click on this cell here that has the formula. Notice only one of those cells has the formula in there, the top left. And I'll take a look at table number 3 on that web page. Let's see what I get here. Okay, very small data set here, not too much. I'll go to number 4. Okay, so this looks pretty good. All right, so I have the team, have the wins, losses. So it looks like it's currently filtered by amount of wins, which makes sense. Okay. And let's see, appearances, it's not sorted. So maybe I'll create a filter view so I can run some more tools on here as well. So I'll go ahead and create a filter view and I'll create a new one here. Okay, so here's my view. Maybe I want to sort by appearances, largest to smallest. So New England has the most appearances, 11 so far, followed by Pittsburgh, Dallas, and Denver. They have 8 each here as well. So that's the feature to import HTML. So go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and if you want to use this link, you can. But go ahead and import HTML from your favorite website. Make sure it has some tables on there and try to identify the actual table number. If you don't get it right the first time, you can always change the number right in the formula and come right back. Welcome back. Well, let's take a look at a few more parameters of the import HTML function here. We were able to import right here, import HTML by pulling up the Super Bowl winners right onto our Google Sheet here. And as long as this data is updated, we will have the live results here. I'm going to go back to my import HTML2 here. And so for this one, I'm pulling in the NFL standings for the 2021 season. As you can see, this is the 17-game season here. But either way, in this example, I'm pulling in all the columns. If you take a look at my formula here, okay, so we just have those 3 parameters, the link to the website, the fact that we want a table resource, and we want the first table that is on that web page. So that basically pulls in all the columns here. But what if you just want maybe the first 2 columns or the first 3 columns? Well, if I scroll down here, I do have an example here. So I'm pulling from the same data set, but I'm just pulling in the first 3 columns. So I'm pulling in the name of the team, the amount of wins, and the amount of losses here as well. And so if I take a look at my formula, we can examine it. Okay. So for this one, notice that I attached a query in front of it. Okay, because we're going to be taking a look at queries once we start looking at running SQL commands here in Google Sheets. So the query feature is a very powerful feature in Google Sheets. It allows us to introduce different types of languages that we can use right inside here of Google Sheets. So now because I use the query here at the beginning, so here's the structure of the query. We only have a few parameters here. And runs a Google Visualization API query language, which is a query across different data here. We'll get more into this a little later. So now that I wrap that import HTML inside of my query here, notice at the end, I can select the columns by using the select statement. So I can select column 1, column 2, and column 3. So that gives me more flexibility. So if you take a look at my table here, I only have the first 3 here as well. And if I want to, maybe I can add some quick formatting to this table here. Sorry about that. So if I go to formatting, I can go to alternating colors. My table has headers, and maybe I'll choose this bluish tone here. I'll go ahead and click done. And maybe I'll go ahead and just center everything. All right. So very good. It's not really functioning like a table, but at least it looks like a table right now. Very nice and clean. Okay. And so the bottom line is the query statement allows us to run additional conditions on a data table here as well. So take a look at the formula. Go ahead and pause the video and try to just return the first 3 columns from a table from a website of your choice and come right back. Welcome back. Well, let's go ahead and talk about SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language. It's often referred to as SQL as well, so it's really interchangeable, SQL or SQL. I like to refer to it as SQL. So SQL is a standard language for accessing and manipulating databases. There are several databases that you can run SQL queries on, but the main 3 here are Microsoft Access databases, SQL servers, and MySQL databases as well. Now, what can you do with SQL? Well, you can query a database. From that same database, you can retrieve data. You can insert records into a database. You can update records in a database, and you can go ahead and delete records from a database as well. So as you can see, it's a very, very powerful language that allows us to do some really advanced queries here. So in Excel speak, kind of think of SQL, at least on the surface, as HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, SUMIF, AVERAGEIF, and all of those kind of rolled into one here. So what does SQL have to do with Google Sheets? Well, thanks to the Google query, we did take a look at that when we were running our import HTML feature when we just displayed 3 columns from that table. Now, thanks to the query, it allows us to run SQL commands in Google Sheets. Now, this is really, really big. This is really a game changer because SQL is very, very powerful. Now, one of the things that we need to just realize is that the traditional syntax for SQL, it differs from the syntax that we'll be using in Google Sheets. For example, over here, I have in my second box here, I have a table that's called countries. And to write the traditional syntax for SQL, I would say select all. I can write the word all, or I can type the asterisk from countries. And that will return every single record, all the rows and all of the records from that data set there as well. Or actually all the fields and all the records. In Google Sheets, it's a little different. We have to first introduce the query, all right, the query statement there. And then once we introduce the query, we can go ahead and write our SQL statement. But notice we have to select the name of the table first, and then we go ahead and write our SQL command. So I'm going to go back to my Google Sheet here. I do have a spreadsheet or worksheet tab prepared for us, and I do have it kind of documented along the way. So we'll have our SQL tutorial. So I just went back to my Google Sheet here. So here we're on the SQL worksheet tab. So I do have a few examples here. We're going to go ahead and actually run 8 different SQL statements to retrieve different results from our table here. So here's our table. I have this table here that I just kind of imported from the web. And notice I did give this table a name. So it's called countries. So if you look in the name box, notice when I highlight this entire table here, it's called countries. So we're going to use that name so that we can go ahead and select all of the data from our countries table. We'll select individual columns such as country and revenue. We'll go ahead and select a country and revenue where the revenue is greater than 10,000, as you can see here. And then we'll go ahead and show all countries in Europe here. And then we'll come down here to the bottom. We'll run some more complex commands as well. So at this point, what we want to do is go ahead and click on cell F2. We're going to enter the query function here, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the documentation for that as well. So here's our documentation. I just entered the query. And as you can see, we have a few parameters here. such as data, query, and then we have headers. So here's an example. Okay. It tells us what it's about, so we can run the Google Visualization API query language query across data. Now, this is not so much a tutorial about the query function here. It's more so about SQL. But I do encourage you to go ahead and click on Learn More. It will open up a sidebar here so that you can just be a little more familiar with the query command here. So go ahead and click on Learn More here. Pause the video and go ahead and just kind of take a look at some of the parameters. And we'll come right back and we'll go ahead and write our first statement. Okay, let's go ahead and write our first statement here. So we want to select all the data from our country table here. So when I write my select statement here, I should have all this data populate right over here as well. So I'll go ahead and introduce my query statement. I'll tab into that and select that. I'll go ahead and type the name of my object first, which is the countries table. And now I'll enter my comma for my second argument here. And I'll go ahead and just wrap my SQL statement inside of my quotes here. So I'll use select. And I'll use all, which is the asterisk here. So I want to select all. I'll go ahead and close that quote. I'll add my 1 here at the end. I'll close my parentheses. And just like that, we're able to drop in all of the data here as well. So notice that the select statement is not case sensitive. If you write SQL a lot, you're used to writing the select all uppercase here, but it's not case sensitive. Let's go ahead and run our second one here. So in this example, we want to select the country and revenue column and drop it into here. So we just want the this data here. So here's our country and here's our revenue. So we'll go ahead and drop that in. Now, when we're typing the columns, typically in SQL, you would type the names of the columns, but here we're going to refer to the actual column letter indicator here as well. Again, just specifying my object. And I'll go ahead and introduce my quote so I can start my select statement for SQL. Okay, so typically here we would type the name of the column, but here our country column is column A, so I'm going to use column A here. Use my comma, and I want column B. I'll close my statement here and I'll close my parentheses. Okay, so that works for me. It drops in all of the information here. So far so good. Let's go ahead and do another one. This time we'll do, again, country and revenue, but we only want to return the values that's where the revenue is greater than 10K. So we want to return all these values here, but it has to be greater than 10K. So we will not have Nigeria, we will not have Russia, Mexico, Malaysia, and Spain. So we should only return a few here as well. So if we do this correctly, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 return values here. So I'll go ahead and write my query statement. Again, the name of my object, and I'll use the quotes to write my statement here. So just as before, we're just going to go ahead and select columns A and B. Okay, this time we're just going to introduce the where clause. Okay, so the where clause allows us to specify a condition. So we're just going to type where, and notice the where clause is not case sensitive either. We can type it all lowercase and it will work just fine. So where, okay, so we're concerned about the revenue. So our revenue is in column B. So we're going to say where column B is greater than 10,000. So we can write it as where B is greater than 10,000. I'll close my statement here, close my parentheses, and press enter. Okay, and so here we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these all have revenues that are greater than 10,000. And so that return those values for us. So as you can see, pretty powerful tool so far. Let's do one more, then I'll allow you to pause the video and practice these basic statements here. So for this one, we want to show all countries in Europe. So we're going to use another where clause here. We only want to return UK, Germany, and Spain. Okay. So we want to return the data where the continent is equal to Europe. So we'll do this again, drop in our query statement. So we'll use select all. We'll select all. And now we'll enter our where. So where, okay, so we want the countries as Europe. So the continent is in column C. So we'll say where C, okay, is equal to Europe. Now for this part, we do have to type the actual name that we're pulling from the records here. We have to use the single quote to type Europe. Now this is case sensitive. Now notice this was purposely written in lowercase. If I try to write Europe in uppercase, I'll get an error. It will not return the values for me. So I have to type the entry here exactly as it appears in the table. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close my single quote there. I'll close my double quote because my statement is finished. I'll close with my parentheses. And if all goes well, I should get this displaying properly here. And there we go. Did not have any errors. So we have UK, Germany, and Spain. They're all from the continent of Europe. And so far, so good. Okay. So records are match specific. So it must be written as recorded in the table. And it must be in single quotes. So go ahead and use these guides here as you kind of go along. Go ahead and pause the video and write these first 4 statements and come right back. Okay, well, hopefully you were able to return those values there. Let's go ahead and write our next 4 statements here. This time we want to show all the data from the table, and we're going to sort by the revenue column. And then we want to go ahead and sort in descending order. Okay. So I do have part of the statement written here, just our query, countries, and we're starting our select statement here. So we're selecting all. So how do we sort by a column, and how do we specify whether we want it in ascending order or descending order? Well, I'm going to go ahead here and type the remainder of it here as well. So we're selecting all, and all I'm going to do here is use the order. Okay, so I'll use order. Okay, so we use order by, and I want to order by column B because B is my revenue. So order by B. And so the next thing I need to just specify here is whether I want ascending or descending. Now we can use the short name for ascending or descending. So I want descending order. So I'm going to go ahead and type DESC. I'll go ahead and close my statement, close my parentheses. I'll do a quick check just to make sure everything looks all right. I'm not getting any errors. And this looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and press enter. So as you can see, we just kind of analyze our data set here. We can see that the revenue is in descending order. So greatest to smallest here. So we have USA at 67.8 million, down to Mexico at 1.2 million here. So I'll head on over to my next one here. Now just to note, if you're used to writing SQL, the clauses do not need to be separated by commas. So typically, we would need to separate these here, order by and the descending, but we can write this as one statement here as well. So I'm going to head over to cell K20. And in this instance, I want to show the country and the revenue. And we'll take it a little step further here. We want to show the top 5 results that are sorted by revenue. So I've entered the first part of our statement here. Okay, so just the query, the countries, and starting the select statement here. Now remember, we want to show country and revenue. So country is column A, revenue is column B, as we've done before. So I'll go ahead and type those columns. Okay, so now we have A and B. I'll enter my space here. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and order by, right? So we'll be able to sort by revenue, and we want to show the top 5 as well. So we'll go ahead and enter our order by again. And our revenue is in column B. So I'll choose column B here. So order by column B. And now I want it to be in descending order. So just as before, we'll say DESC. And now we want to go ahead and impose a limit here. So to impose a limit, we'll actually type the word limit. And then we'll type the number of results that we want. So in this case, we want the top 5. So I'll type the number 5. And I'm done. I'll go ahead and close my select statement here and close my entire query. Okay, so what this does, as you can see, we're returning the country and the revenue. The revenue is sorted in descending order, just as we had here. However, we're just showing the top 5 results. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So from USA down to Canada. So very good. So I'll go ahead and click on this statement again. All right. The only thing that we need to kind of be concerned about here is that the limit needs to be the last command here. All right. So when we're imposing a limit, make sure that in our formula, the limit is the last one here. Now, I know we're getting kind of complex here, but as you can see, we're just kind of adding to our statements as we're going along. Okay. So in this one, we just added the limit to the end of it as well. So I'll go over here to our next one. So for our 7th example here, we're going to write statements that we've already written here, such as we're going to be using the where clause. In this example, we want to return countries in Asia, and the revenue is greater than 5,500. Okay. So right now, here's our select. So we want to return the countries. So we want to go ahead and return, we want to return A and B because we want the country and the revenue. So A and B, as we did before. Okay, so that will return the country records for us and the revenue records. Now we need to use the where clause because we just want the continent of Asia here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have Russia, China, Malaysia, and Singapore. So we'll introduce our where clause. Okay, so now we need to think about which column are we concerned about, right? So we're concerned about column C, which is the continent. So we'll go ahead and type our C in uppercase, and it needs to equal to Asia as it is written here with an uppercase. Okay, so remember we need our single quotes. Okay, so far so good. Now we just need to go ahead and enter another part of our select statement because we just want to return values where the revenue is greater than 5,500. Okay, so this time we'll use our AND statement. So we'll say AND, okay, and where column B is greater than 5,500. Okay, so we're selecting The countries is our object. We're selecting columns A and B, where column C is equal to Asia and where column B is greater than 5,500. Okay. And so we get two here. We get Russia and China, right? Because they are on the continent of Asia and they do have values or revenue that's greater than 5,500. So notice Malaysia, even though it's on the continent of Asia, it did not return revenue greater than 5,500, nor did Singapore. So that's why those two are excluded. Very good. Let's head on over to our last one here. And this is our most complex so far. We want to show all countries in Asia or Europe and where the revenue is greater than 5,500. So as you can see, we're going to be using the where, the or, and the and statement here as well. Okay, so I do have the first part written here. So the first part of our statement is going to be exactly as it was our previous example here. Okay, so we're just going to say select, we want column A and B. So we'll do A and B. Okay, where C is equal to Asia. So column C equals Asia. Okay. So the first part is done. Now we need to introduce our or statement because we want it to be Asia or Europe. So we'll say or. Okay. So or C equals in single quotes. Now Europe is spelled with a lowercase e, so we want to make sure that we use a lowercase e here as well. Okay, so we'll close it off in single quotes. And we just have one more thing to be concerned about. So and where the revenue is greater than 5,500. Remember our revenue is in column B, so we'll enter our and statement and just simply say B is greater than 5,500. But if we take a look at our code, we do realize, or our results rather, we see that Singapore shows up here. So while Singapore is in Asia, it does not have revenue that's greater than 5,500. So let's go ahead and take a look at our statement here. I'll go up to the formula bar here to take a look at it. And the one thing I realized here, this is a complex example. And because we're not separating our and statement and our or statement with commas here, we need to go ahead and use the parentheses to actually separate our or statement from our and statement. So at the beginning of my where clause, I'm going to go ahead and add my parentheses here. And I'll go ahead and close this out. As you can see, my red lines are gone here. So what I'm doing here is just my where statement is going to be connected to right here, C equals Asia or C equals Europe. And once that's finished, we'll head over to our and statement. So let's go ahead and try this out. And there you go. So that works. So all these countries are either in Europe or Asia with revenue that's greater than 5,500. So just a bit of troubleshooting there, right? Very, very good. So go ahead and pause the video, write these 4 statements, and come right back. Welcome back. Well, hopefully you had some fun writing some SQL statements there. Now let's head on over to our financial data worksheet tab. And we want to do 2 things here. We want to go ahead and grab some financial data from Yahoo Finance, specifically cryptocurrency, list and prices. And we want to go ahead and use the Google Finance function to grab some stocks over a period of time for some various symbols here as well. So we'll use the import HTML feature to grab cryptocurrency list and prices from Yahoo Finance. Let's go to the website. So here's our real-time ticker here for Yahoo cryptocurrency. If I just scroll down, we can kind of see how big this data set is here. Okay. So we're showing the first 25 rows here. Okay. And if I scroll up here, so here are all the headers, name, change, percent change. And so all the data that we would normally want to use, it's right here. And so if we go ahead and copy this link here, and we come back, we can use the import HTML feature. So let's go ahead and drop it in right here. Okay, so just as we did before, we'll go ahead and drop that in. Make sure that it's in quotes. And remember, if we need help, we can always click on the help option here so that we can get a guide here as well. And so we want to go ahead and use a table. And here we just need to go ahead and actually indicate the table number. Now this is not really a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and use 1. And let's see what values we get back here. Okay. So it looks like there was only one table here on this page. So we're actually getting the results that we want here. Okay. So here are our values here for Bitcoin and all of the other cryptocurrencies here as well. Now over here in column O and P, there's some graphics here. They're not translating over here. So for example, if you take a look here, we have these graphics here, such as a day chart and the 52-week range. So I'll just go ahead and hide those. That's perfectly fine. I'll hide those from my data set here. The next thing I want to do is just kind of make this a little easier to read. I like to center things. I'll go ahead and actually apply some alternating colors. So I'll click on my Format tab here. I'll choose alternating colors, and maybe I'll grab this green here. I'll click Done, and then I'll just go ahead and center align everything here as well. So very good. So now this table is a lot easier for me to read. Now this does update on a 1 hour interval. So every hour we should expect the data to be updated here. So if we just kind of do a quick test here, let's see, 43,905.81 is the current value for Bitcoin. If we go to our list here, okay, as you can see, it just changed. So this is kind of changing very, very quickly here. But with the import HTML, we get an hourly interval here as well. Now there's different ways to kind of, that there's a lot of articles online that kind of demonstrate how to change the interval rate here. So you're more than welcome to entertain some of those, but that's kind of beyond what we're trying to explain here. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and just auto size all of my columns here. Oh, that's not what I want. There we go. All right. So now this table looks a lot better for me. And I could wrap these as well. Maybe I'll just quickly do that. Have a lot of white space here. Not really necessary, so I'll wrap the text here, and then I can make this a little smaller. Get rid of all that white space. Okay. Very good. So that looks a lot better for me. Everything looks okay there. So very good. So that's the import HTML feature. Now, if I wanted to, I can go ahead and grab another table from another list here from Yahoo Finance. But right now I'm grabbing the cryptocurrencies. Let's see. Maybe I'll do, let's see, watch lists. Markets. Let's do trending tickers. Let's take a look at trending tickers here. Okay, so if I wanted to drop this one in, I could do this one here as well. These are kind of what's trending here. So we have NVIDIA, Microsoft, and so forth and so on. right? So I could drop this in if I want to as well, but I'll go back here. I think this is good enough. And so this is really cool because now instead of going to that web page or any other web page that has these, has this data, we can have this just readily available when you open your Google Sheets here. And you can, obviously now you can go ahead and run some filters on it. If we create a filter view, right, we can go ahead and run some filters on this data as well. So that will give us more flexibility over the kind of the static tools that we have here in Yahoo Finance. All right, go ahead and click on that link, import the cryptocurrency for Yahoo Finance. Go ahead and make some changes to your table. You can go ahead and add some colors. You can design it the way that you want to. Once again, I did hide those last two columns over here on the right. And this is just all about formatting this list so that it can make sense to you. If you want to use some filtering, just go ahead and drop in create a filter view and come right back. Welcome back. Okay, so I did designate another area down here. So on the top of my sheet here, I'm tracking cryptocurrency from Yahoo Finance. Now on the bottom, I'm creating my personal stock watch here. I have a few stocks that I want to go ahead and watch, such as Twitter, AMD, Apple, and Nvidia. And what I want to do is use the Google Finance. I do have the graphic right here that shows the parameters. We have an example here of the Google Finance as well. So I'll go ahead and drop in that first one for Twitter. And once I select Google Finance, I can just tab to accept that value. And here we have our help menu here as well. And notice for each parameter or each argument that we're clicked on, it will highlight right here in green. And so the first thing we want to enter is the ticker value, which is the ticker symbol for the security to consider. And notice it has to be written in quotes. So the first one I want is Twitter. So I'll go ahead and type this out here. I'll go up here and do it. So it's not case sensitive. So I can just say Twitter like that, which is the symbol. And then the next parameter here, I'll type the comma. And so now we're on the attribute. And if we scroll down, the attributes, okay, so this is actually optional, but I'm going to go ahead and enter this anyway as price. So I want to go ahead and grab the price here. So I'll grab price and then I'll type my comma. And now the next argument is the start date. So the start date is also optional. But if we take a look at our example, right, we want to enter the start date in quotes. And actually, I tried this without quotes. It did work, but I'll go ahead and use quotes here. So I'll do this from the start of the year here. So our next parameter is the end date. All right, so I'll use end date here. And what I'll do is I'll just drop in the today function so I can get it to the current day. Okay, so just like that. And then I'll enter the interval. Okay, so the interval is defined as, we have two options. We can either track it daily or weekly. I just want to track it weekly. So I'll go ahead and type weekly, make sure that it's in quotes, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so once I press enter, it's loading, it's thinking, and there you go. So it drops in the values. Okay, so I'll expand this a little bit here. All right, and maybe I can change this format. Maybe I don't want the time in there. I can go ahead and change this. But I'll go ahead and just kind of center these here, just like that. I could also give this a color code if I want to. Maybe I will do that. A quick format. And maybe I'll make this one let's say maybe yellow for Google. Okay, and so just like that, we have our, kind of see how our stock is doing here. I'll take it a step further. I'm going to go ahead and insert a sparkline down here so I can get a trend analysis. So I'll just put in a quick trend down here. Okay, and maybe I'll merge these two cells because I want my sparkline to be a little big here. So I'll merge these two cells together. And right in here, I'll drop in my sparkline. So here's my sparkline, and I'm just going to select my data. So I'll choose these here, just like that. I'll go ahead and press enter. So here's my sparkline. As you can see, kind of going down, up, trending upwards currently. So that's pretty good. And I'll make this cell a little bigger here. There we go. And so I have a nice little visual here that I created based on the stocks that I imported from Google Finance. Very good. So it's looking good. So what I want you to do, go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and enter the 3 more here. Try to have 4 stocks down here under your personal stock watch. If you want to, you can change this date to a shorter date if you want to. Okay. And maybe you want to do daily instead of weekly. You can go ahead and do that as well. So go ahead and import those and come right back. Welcome back. Now, while you were gone, I did realize that this is a big deal, a very, very important function. And so I went ahead and created my own, or inserted another worksheet tab here, just for the personal stock. So I just basically moved my data from here into personal stock. And one of the things that we want to do, so as you can see, I did insert the Google Finance for, so here's Twitter, here's AMD, here's Apple, and here is NVIDIA. So this will be a growing list. And so what I want to do is I want to instead put all my data on top here. So maybe I'll put my sparklines up here in this first, on that first row. So I'll make that first row a little bigger here. And I'll just go ahead and merge these, kind of set these up in preparation for my sparkline. And the reason I'm putting it up here is so that it does not interfere with as my list tries to grow here. As you can see, a new entry actually just came in a few seconds ago for April 5th. So these came in recently. I was getting an error in this column because I had some data in cell K17 and it would not expand. So make sure you don't have anything down here so that it can expand properly. I'm going to go ahead and remove these, or this merged one here as well. And so now I can just go ahead, and this has room to grow, and I can just go ahead and drop in my sparkline at the very top here. Okay, so there's my sparkline for Twitter. There's for AMD. This is for Apple. And finally for NVIDIA. Very good. Now, obviously, if I wanted to expand this, I could. Right? I could make it a little bigger if I wanted to. So I can get a more accurate trend analysis here as well. Okay. So pretty cool. And the only other thing is I did center all of the data here. And if you want to, you can go ahead and add a quick table or alternating colors to each of these here if you just want to kind of separate them. And then we'll have a proper stock tracker. We have our data on the bottom and we have our sparklines or our mini graphs here at the very top. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and talk about macros. So if you notice, we do have we actually have 3 macro worksheet tabs here. So here's macros 1. We'll talk about what macros are. And then we'll actually create a few macros here. Once we're done, we'll head over to macros 2, and we'll clean up this messy worksheet here. And then we'll take a look at another example of how to use a macro by creating a filter shortcut key on a large data set. So let's go back to macros 1 here. So what is a macro? So a macro is a tool, in this case for Google Sheets, that Sheets uses to record user actions and commands. And so right now, if we were to click anywhere, Google Sheets is not really recording those actions. But when we start to run our macro, it will record those actions for us. Okay? So when is it useful? It's useful when you want to quickly repeat a step or series of steps. And so think automation here. So for example, I think a lot of us can kind of identify maybe some common tasks that we run on a daily basis. That will be a good candidate for a macro. For example, you want to clean up a messy worksheet that you receive every day or maybe every week or maybe once a month. You can create a macro to record a bunch of steps, and it will do it in a fraction of a second for you. So each command that you execute is recorded and repeated when you run the macro. Your macros command can be found on the extensions menu, and here are the macros. So currently I don't have any macros created. So the options that I have right now is to either record a macro or import a macro. Once I have a macro created, I can actually manage it, and we'll take a look at that as well. One of the very first things that we need to identify when we're running a macro is the fact that you can run two different types of macros. So you can run an absolute reference macro, or you can run a relative reference macro. So if you are when you're working on formulas in Excel or even here in Google Sheets, we know that it's often necessary for us to absolute reference a cell if we want to lock onto that cell. Else, we want to go ahead and use relative referencing. So maybe that our formula can copy down. So when we're creating our macro, we either need to use absolute referencing, which is the default, or we need to use relative referencing. Now, absolute referencing will always run that macro in the exact same place that you create the macro. A relative reference macro will give you the flexibility to run that macro based on where you select. And so the first two macros that we'll create, we're going to create a basic signature. We're going to create a signature that always runs in cell A1 down to A3 by using absolute reference. And then we'll go ahead and create another signature. This time it will allow us to apply it anywhere on our documents. I'm going to go ahead and click on my macros here. I'm going to record a macro. And as you can see, here is our dialog box here on the bottom. So we can use absolute references. And it says when applying macro, use exact location as recorded. Or we can use relative references. So when applying macro, use the active selection. So this is the difference between the two. And we're going to go ahead and cancel this here, and we'll start creating our first macro. Let's go ahead and create our first macro. And what I want to do, I want to create a signature macro. And basically, I just want to drop in a signature with my name, the name of my company, and the current date. So I'll type my name over here just to give an example of what I want it to look like. Notice I'm using the today function so that I can always get the current date. And then maybe I'll go ahead and center that. And so instead of doing all these steps over and over, I want to create a macro that will just drop this right in for me. What we'll see is that I can use a shortcut key and just be able to quickly drop in this signature. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that here. And we'll follow the example right here from our first text box. So I'm going to go ahead and be very deliberate with creating my macro. I'm going to make sure that I click on cell A1 ahead of time. I'm going to go ahead and click on extensions. And here you'll find your macros. I'm going to go ahead and record a macro. I want to use absolute referencing. Okay, so it's okay. It's actually going to record every word that I click, every command that I run. So make sure that I click on cell A1. I'm going to press enter. And that's it, I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and press save. And as you can see right here, I can go ahead and give this macro a name. I'll just call this signature 1. And I'm going to go ahead and apply a shortcut key here. So a number, I'll choose number 1. So Control-Alt-Shift-1 will run this macro for me. So this is optional. You don't have to assign a shortcut key. But just to demo this, I'll go ahead and click save. Now, if I go up to my extensions menu here, I mouse over macros. Here, I'll see my macro right here. And it does remind me of the shortcut combination here as well. So let's go ahead and test this. So remember, we use absolute, so it should always apply in cell A1 here, or beginning in cell A1. I'm going to remove this so that we can see the change. I'm going to go ahead and click over here somewhere, and I'll go ahead and run it. So I'll click on extensions, macros, and I'll click on my signature 1 here. So it's running the script. Sometimes if you run it for the first time, it may ask you to, yep, here we go. So it says a script attached to this document needs your permission to run. So it's going to open up your account settings, and you have to give it the authorization to actually run here. So I'll go ahead and set that up, and I'll come right back. Okay, so I just answered all those questions that Google asked me. So now that I'm authorizing the use of this extension, I'll go ahead and run my macro again here. And as you can see, it runs right here in cell A1, even though I was clicked over here as well. So we'll always run beginning in A1, A2, and A3. So let's go ahead and create our second macro. This time we want to create a macro that's it's relative to where we click on. So for example, if I want to create my signature over here, I want to be able to drop it there or here as well. So the first thing I'll do, I'll just go ahead and select my location ahead of time. And I don't want to click too much. I just want to be able to just type my name of my company, and today's date. So I'll do the same thing as before. I'll record a macro. I'll change this to relative references. And now I'll go ahead and just type. And I'll go ahead and save this here. Call this signature 2. I'm not going to use a shortcut key for this one. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So my macro is created. So now let's see if I can apply that macro anywhere that I want to. Maybe I'll click over here on cell C20. Go ahead and run this macro. So as you can see, it's based on your selection. So again, the relative allows us flexibility. I'll do that one more time here. Very good. So go ahead and create those two macros. Create the first one. Just make sure that you authorize all of the settings necessary to run the macro. Create your macro that runs in cell A1. And then go ahead and create a relative reference macro and insert your signature a few times as well. Welcome back. Well, hopefully you were able to create those two macros. Let's go ahead and create a third macro, and we're going to create a cleanup macro here. Now, if we take a look at this worksheet here, Maybe you receive a worksheet that looks like this, maybe on a weekly or a monthly or even a quarterly basis here. And as you can see, we have several issues. We don't have the currency or accounting format here for the price. We notice that some of our cells are left justified or right justified or centered. Some of our data may be cut off based on the column width as well. And we just want to go ahead and clean this up. And so what I want to do, when it's good practice when you're actually recording a macro with a lot of steps, to just kind of go ahead and document the steps here that you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and type this out. The first thing I want to do is go ahead and just apply a quick style to my title here. I want to go ahead and bold the weekly earnings. For my headers, I want to go ahead and apply another type of style. So maybe a fill color here. I can go ahead and do that. I want to go ahead and apply the currency format to my prices here. And then I want to go ahead and center everything. And then finally, if necessary, I'll go ahead and just auto size all of my columns here. So I'll go ahead and write this over here so I can have a guide. Okay, so now that I've kind of documented my steps here, I'm going to go ahead and be deliberate. I'll go ahead and click on cell A1 because that's where I want to start. And I want to make sure that I use absolute. Okay, so I'll use absolute here for my macro. I'm going to go ahead and click on my extensions, and I'm going to go ahead and create this macro here. So I'll record the macro. I'll change this to absolute. I'm going to intentionally click on cell A1, and I want to go ahead and apply. So I'll change the font size and the color as well. So maybe I'll make this bigger, maybe 18. And I'll make this, maybe this blue here. A3 is going to be bold. I'm going to grab all of my headers here. Give that a white text on a blue background. And I'm going to go ahead and apply the currency format here to column F. And now I want to go ahead and center align everything. So the macro is recording all of these clicks and selections that I'm using here. So I'll center align everything. Our data is looking pretty good. Now the last thing I can do here, I actually don't need to auto fit all the columns because everything is actually fitting pretty well here. But if I wanted to, I can actually just, maybe I'll select all, and I'll just double click. And that will actually auto size everything for me. I'm done. I'm going to go ahead and click save. And I'll call this cleanup. And I'll go ahead and click save. I don't want to use a shortcut. Very good. Now notice here on the bottom, I can actually go ahead and edit the script. So let's take a quick look there. Well, we'll come back and take a look at that here as well. We'll take a look at the code that runs inside, and we'll see it's very similar to Visual Basic for Excel. And we'll make some sense of the code there as well. Okay, so that worked. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove all the formatting here. And I'll click on my Format tab. I'll clear formatting. Put everything back to normal here. Don't want this formatted. Just put a number here. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and run. And let's see if we'll apply all those changes for me. So I'll go ahead and click on Extensions, Macros, and I'll click on Cleanup. And there you go. So it works well. So as we can see, a macro is not just about assigning or adding string values to cells. We can apply formatting as well. Okay, so go ahead and create your macro to clean up this messy worksheet. Now it looks good. Now I can go ahead and work on this. I can easily read it here. If you want to make any other changes, go ahead and do that and come right back. Welcome back. Well, we're on our very last macro here. In this example, we want to go ahead and create a sort macro. So basically, we can come in here and we can actually sort our data. We're working on our payroll. Here's our peer company employee list here. It's payroll time. And we want to get ourselves organized And so if we scroll down, this data set here is quite a big set of data all the way down to row 97. And so we want to get ourselves organized. So one thing that we can do is we can go ahead and sort by division, right? So we have Maine, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So maybe we can work on one division at a time. We can also sort by department. So for example, we can work on, the Connecticut development team first. And we can take it a step further. We can add a third sort. So within the development team, inside of Connecticut, we can sort by last name here as well. So we can do this manually, but maybe we are sharing this document with a team member that's not too comfortable with sorting. We can actually just go ahead and create a macro that will take care of the sorting for our team member. All they need to do is follow the instructions here, press Control, Alt, plus Shift, plus 4, and that will run the macro for them. So what I want to do, I want to go ahead and just select all of my data here from the table. And then I want to go ahead and click on my data tab. And once I highlight my entire table, I'll be able to sort the range and use a custom sort here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on cell A3. And I'm going to go ahead and click on extensions here. And I'll go ahead and create this macro. I do want to make sure that it is absolute because it's going to run in the same area on this data set here. I'll go ahead and click on cell A3. I want to grab the entire table, but what I'll do is I'm going to press Control Shift to the right. That will select that entire row for me. And now I'm going to go ahead and press Control Shift down. And notice as we kind of execute some commands here, it's kind of recording it for us. It will give us a quick window that shows us exactly what we did. So I'll press Control Shift down here just to make sure that all of my data is selected. So now that I have everything selected, I'm going to go ahead and click on my data tab here. And now I have the opportunity to use the advanced range sorting options. And I do have a header row. So remember, I want to first sort by division, A to Z. I'll add another sort column here, also by department, A to Z. And then I'll add my third one here, which is the last name. So I'll choose last, A to Z, and I'm done. I'm going to go ahead and click on sort. And so that sorts it for me. You can see I have Connecticut. So here's the development team inside of Connecticut. And we can see that it's sorted in alphabetical order. So here we have Abel, Chen, Connors, and so forth and so on. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'll go ahead and I'll call this sort. And per the instructions here that I'm providing, I want to make sure that I have the number 4 in here. So I'll go ahead and click Save. And I am done. So at this point, what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and test that. And so I'm going to go ahead and move my table back around here. I'm going to sort by this first column. So I'll go back into my sort range. And I just want to sort by the number, A to Z. Okay, so now my list is back to normal here. So let's go ahead and run that macro. So Control Alt Shift 4, Control Alt Shift 4. Okay, so it runs the script for me. And just like that, so here we can see the division is sorted. We have Connecticut first, and then Maine, New Hampshire, and then Vermont. And within Maine, we see the development team, then the research team, then the sales team, and then the staff. So this is working really, really good. So as we can see, we can use macros to sort as well. Go ahead and pause the video, create that macro, come right back, and we'll wrap up with AppSheet. Welcome back. Well, before we move over to AppSheet here, let's go ahead and take a look at the code behind those 4 macros that we created here. I'm going to go ahead and click on my extensions here. I'll go to macros and I'll go to manage macros. So here's a dialog box for our 4 macros. So what I want to do, maybe that second signature here, I want to go ahead and edit that, take a look at it as well. So if I click on the more options here, I can remove this macro if I want to, or I can edit it. Notice that you can also assign the shortcut combinations here as well. But I want to go ahead and edit this script here. So this opens up AppScript. So AppScript is Google's version of VBA for Excel. So I'll go ahead and click on my macros here. So here are those 4 macros. So here's my signature, signature 2, here's my cleanup, and here is my sort. It's a very nice thing to do after you create a macro to take a look at the code behind it so you can get some idea of how it's working here as well. So the very first thing that we notice here for our very first function, this is signature 1. So we create a function, it's called signature 1. We start the function with the open parentheses and the close parentheses. We start the code with our bracket, and we end the code with our closing bracket here as well. The very first thing it does here on line 2, it activates the current spreadsheet. So here is spreadsheet.app.getActive. So whatever the current spreadsheet is selected or active, we're going to go ahead and activate that. On line 3, we're going to go ahead and get the range A1. So this is cell A1. Remember, we did click on cell A1, so we activate that cell, and then on the next line, we're going to place a value of Mo Jones, a string value, in that cell. So the process continues. We go down now to cell A2, we make that active, and then we type the word learn it in there by using set value. Also get current cell. We'll kind of see this repeated here. So next we specify that A3 is the active cell. And once it's active, we can use a verbiage called get current cell. So the current cell is actually A3. We're going to go ahead and set a formula in there, which is the today function. And then finally over here, I pressed enter, and so it dropped down to A4 here as well. So just like with VBA, you can go ahead and edit the code. I do notice that over here, I typed the E in uppercase. So I'll just go ahead and change that, make a small change here. And as long as I'm still within my single quote here, I don't have to worry about affecting my code. So I'll do that, and maybe I'll take off the E off of here. Okay, so just Mo Jones. And I'm going to go ahead and click save. And I can actually run it from here if I want to. It will give me some information here on the bottom to show how my code is actually executing. But I want to go back and specify. So this is my signature 2. I'm going to go ahead and close this window here. I'll press cancel. And maybe I want to apply my signature right here. So remember, this is that signature 2, so I should be able to apply it anywhere inside of this Google Sheet. So I'll click on extensions, I'll go to macros, and I'll run signature 2. And there you go. So it runs right here, it runs very nice. One of the things that we can do is we can actually undo a macro in Google Sheets. We cannot undo a macro in Excel. So if I press undo, we're able to undo that as well. So go ahead and pause the video, go ahead and click on extensions, macros, manage, and go ahead and edit one of those macros. Take a look at the code behind it and see if you can make a simple edit and come right back. So congratulations on completing our course on Google Sheets for Excel users. Whether you're just kind of using Google Sheets alongside Excel, or whether you're transitioning from Excel to Google Sheets, hopefully this course was very, very informative for you, and hopefully you were able to walk away with a lot of key takeaways as well. On the resources slide at the very end of this presentation, so there are various resources that I placed in here, such as training and help, getting started with Sheets, switching to Sheets from Excel, a cheat sheet, list of must-haves for Google Sheets, and also using AppSheet as well. So feel free to go ahead and check those out.